Hello guys, welcome to Anatomy and Physiology Screencast 1. What we're going to be starting off with in Anatomy and Physiology is looking at the musculoskeletal system. So we're going to be looking at the skeleton, joints and muscles and how they work together to allow us to perform sporting actions. So first up, we're going to have a look at the this first slide is just a thinking slide just to get you into I suppose the idea of anatomy and physiology in the body. So you don't have to write this unless you're someone who's never done it before and you feel like it would help. So basically, first point, joints. Okay, a joint is where two or more bones meet. Okay, and there are three main types of joint. Okay, so that's quite important, I think, where two or more bones meet, because it's the kind of pivot that's in between the bones. So, for example, your elbow is between the bones of your lower arm and the bones of your upper arm. Okay, so that then allows movement to take place around it. So that you have a joint. Is where two or more bones meet from opposite directions, and that allows movement to take place. Now, with our focus, I'll look at bones later. More importantly for now, though, I just need us to get an understanding of joints. And the three types of joints are as follows. Certainly don't write this, okay? So basically you have immovable or fibrous joints. So immovable joints are things in the skull, okay? So it just doesn't move. It's just all together. There's little things, but there's just no way for it to move. Slightly movable or cartilaginous joints, that will take place in the spine or the vertebral column. And then the only ones you have to be concerned about in PE is freely movable or synovial joints. So synovial joints is what we will term them as. Okay, synovial joints are those which move to allow that where bones join at a fixed point, it allows physical movement. Okay, so that's all we're concerned with. They're the ones that allow us to actually move different directions, allow us to kick the ball, allow us to throw, whatever we're doing. So what I'm going to do is some of this information on the PowerPoint I do not want you to write. You need to write down what I'd ask you to write. So we're going to look at basically the concept of the different synovial joints. Now, synovial joints are basically six different categories of joints, and within them there are body locations. So for example, we'll talk about a ball and socket joint, which is the category of synovial joint, but the actual joints that are within them are your shoulder and your hip. So if I just went through them now, I will tell you what you should write. You do not write everything that's on this PowerPoint. Okay, so starting off then, synovial joint, six categories. So if you have a look through, ball and socket then. The ball and socket joint, okay, basically you don't have to write this, I'll just explain it. Ball means the ball at the end of like a long bone, fits into like a kind of a socket, which in this case would be the scapula. I'm not, like I said, I haven't taught you bones yet. So ball and socket joint is what you need to write as your heading. Okay, ball and socket joint, a little bit of information next to it. There are two ball and socket joints. The two ball and socket joints are in the shoulder and the hip. Okay, you might want to make a little note. They give the widest range of movement. Okay, so going on from there. Next one, we have hinge joints. Now, hinge joints, there are multiple hinge joints in the body. Okay, so the first one, okay, hinge joint. So basically, a hinge joint means that it can open and close. Okay, so like a hinge on a door allows it to go forward and backwards. Okay, so the basic movements, whatever a hinge joint, is that you can go forward and backwards. They have specific names which I'll go through tomorrow. So basically, the hinge joints are at the elbow, the knee, and finally at the ankle. Okay, so if I move on to your next one. Okay, you're going through as follows. A condyloid. Okay, so a condyloid joint. Okay, basically the key thing you need to find out there is that the condyloid joint is at the wrist. Okay, so the wrist is where the only place that you can find a condyloid joint. Don't look at the diagram. Okay, because that one's a different one, and we only have to know the wrist. So going on from there, then. Saddle joint you don't need. So if we go on from here then, you have a gliding joint. So a gliding joint specifically in PE is found in the vertebrae. Okay, so the vertebral column, in there it slightly slides over, so they glide over each other, the bones of the vertebrae. They don't allow a wide variety of movement, but they do allow some movement, which we'll have a look at. Okay, so then if we move through from there, the final one we will look at, again, or you can write pivot joint down, but again, that's one that you do not need to have in this exam. So you won't be examined on a pivot joint. So yeah, you basically, your key ones you're looking at are gliding, ball and socket, hinge, condyloid. They're your main ones, okay? So there's a couple of them you don't really need. So pivot, I mean, things, it's been took out the specification, the one that requires pivot. So basically, you've got 6 synovial joint classifications, but there's 4 that you are particularly focused on, okay? So that is a key bit for now. So if I move it from there, okay, that is your kind of key focus. When you come in tomorrow, I'm going to ask you, there'll be different points off here. I'm going to ask you to see if you can label the place in the body. So when you come in, your starter activity, well, your first activity on the homework that you've done will be right. Okay, there'll be an arrow pointing out. So I'll give you an example. So on here, you can see what you're going to do. It'll have the body location, so shoulder, elbow. Your job is to go around this, pick out all the places where 2 or more bones meet and movement can take place, and then you will have to classify it using the category of synovial joint. So you'll have shoulder, elbow, knee, hip, spine or vertebral column. Then you've got ankle, knee, okay, and you would have to then try to work out which type of joint it is. Okay, all right, thank you very much.